How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the top 6 cheap and fast first cars that you can get with cheap insurance for less than £2,000. And all of their insurance quotes are cheaper than the country average for 17-year-olds, which is around £2,300. Take this as a sequel to my video on cheap first cars for young driving enthusiasts. This is more focused on the faster cars, so cars with quick 0 to 60 times relative to other first cars. Obviously, you compare it to a Jaguar F-Type and it's going to be pretty slow. But try getting insured on a Jaguar F-Type at 17. It's just not going to happen. So for the sake of this video, I've put myself as a 17-year-old. I'm not 17, by the way. I'm 24, but people always ask me, am I 17? No, I'm 24. That 17-year-old is living in a very average area for insurance, so not particularly high, not particularly low. And all the rest of the details are detailed in my video on how to get cheap insurance for 17-year-olds and young drivers. So if you haven't watched that, go watch that and you'll know exactly how I quoted all of my cars for this video. Since we're all stuck at home, I thought I'd bring back the topic of the week. So let me know in the comments down below which manufacturer makes the best first cars. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that in the comments down below. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. Originally, this was going to be the usual top 5 rather than 6, but I really didn't feel like I could leave out this little French warm hatch. The Citroen C2 VTS is the quickest car on this list with a 0 to 60 time of 8 seconds thanks to its 1.6 litre inline 4 that puts out 125 brake horsepower. I managed to get a quote on one of these at £1,945, which is still relatively expensive despite being below the country average for 17-year-olds, but you do get a decent car for your money. Citroen actually designed the car with UK insurance quotes in mind, targeting the younger market here, hence the slightly smaller engine and more advanced security system that you wouldn't otherwise expect to see in little cheap hatchbacks. Now, I actually included this car in a previous video on the best cheap cars to buy to get into rallycross, as the C2 picked up where the Saxo left off of in terms of being relatively simple but effective as a car to bomb around rallycross tracks. Now, I'm assuming that as this would be your first car, it probably wouldn't become a purpose-built race car, but you'll still benefit from a car that handles pretty well from standard, is quite quick, and serves most of the purposes you'd expect from a first car. One downside I can see is the fact that it only has 4 seats as opposed to 5, so it might be time to drop a friend or disappoint them by making them walk. You can get your hands on a high mileage example of one of these for under £1,000 relatively easily, but for £2,000 you're looking at anywhere from around 50,000 miles upwards, which isn't too bad. Now, given it's a Citroen, I'm sure plenty of people will already be in the comments like, oh, it's French and therefore it's going to be rubbish on reliability, and they aren't always wrong, but from what I can see on owners forums, the reliability is no better or worse than your average VW group car of the same era. Key issues tend to be related to sensors, often causing dashboard lights, and wear on the suspension mounting points. They are also known to get a bit of rust around the rear tailgate as well as under the rear axle, so worth checking if you're in the market for one. All in all though, a surprisingly quick first car with decent insurance and even some rallycross pedigree. Put it like that and it's a pretty good offering. In 5th, we have a car that literally has sport in the name. It's the Suzuki Swift Sport, which hosts a 1.6 litre inline 4 engine with variable valve timing, putting out 123 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in 8.6 seconds. Normally when you go for a car that has the word sport in it, insurers massively up those prices for young drivers, but I managed to get a quote for £1,722, £600 under the average, but still quite high relative to the next 4 cars in this video. Hold on 2 seconds, got a quick one for you. If you haven't already, go follow me on Instagram at CarsWithJB. I post daily pictures to get you through this very difficult time of our existence. And if you haven't subscribed, click subscribe. It's right there, it's free, and it helps me out and it helps the channel out, and you get 2 videos a week, which is all a pretty good deal in my opinion. Alright, boom, let's get back to it. This car also featured in my video on cheap rallycross cars, and there's a whole rallycross series dedicated to these little beasts, thanks to the decent equipment it gets from factory, including stiff sports suspension, disc brakes all around, 17-inch alloys and twin exit exhausts. If you're lucky, you can even find some of these specced with Recaro sports seats that are pretty sick for a first car. In addition to this, the car is actually quite practical despite also having only 4 seats. It's quoted at 40 miles per gallon and has 20 more litres of storage space than the C2 mentioned previously. A few friends of mine had non-sport Swifts while at school, and they were very nice first cars in terms of quality. £1,500 is about as little as you can spend to get one of these, but for £2,000 you're looking at around 80 to 100,000 miles on the clock. You'll often see the word bomb-proof on owners' forums in relation to this car, which is a real positive. The gearboxes have been known to fail though, costing around £700 to fix, but it's not a common problem as such. Instead, the majority of owners complain about the very weak handbrake and the bottom arm bushes, both of which are relatively easy and cheap to resolve. I reckon of all the cars on this list, this one provides the most longevity as a purchase. If you think you'll have your first car for quite some time, this might be the one to go for. Now we get onto a car that I should have included in one of these videos a long time ago, a car after my own heart. It's the SKODA FABIA VRS. What's particularly special about this car is that it was named the first exclusively diesel hot hatch with no petrol equivalent, as it hosts a very well loved PD130 1.9 TDI inline-4 engine, putting out 130 brake horsepower and taking it from 0 to 60 in 9.2 seconds. However, according to Autocar, their 0 to 60 test came out at 7.1 seconds, while Auto Express tested it at 8.1 seconds, so clearly this figure is conservative at best. Considering this, I was able to get a quote on one for £1,460, and as my first year on my 1.2 litre FABIA estate was £2,000, you're absolutely laughing. Not only does it have some untapped performance, it's quoted at doing 53 miles per gallon, which is a major benefit on fuel, although downside being it won't be useful for Londoners given the ULEZ. It's even got more luggage space than the previous two cars, and with all of that, a simple remap will get it up to 160 brake horsepower with ease, and with a little tuning you'll get 200 brake horsepower, so for those of you that are looking for performance in your first car, I can highly recommend this one. These are available for around £1,400, so slightly more expensive than the other cars in this list, meaning that £2,000 will get you one with still around 100,000 miles on the clock. This may not be an issue though, as owners and experts alike note that they're incredibly reliable, proving themselves well beyond 200,000 miles, some of them racking up even 400,000 miles, which is insane. Problems to look out for include the turbo boost valve, front wishbone bushes, and the interior fans, but I've already shown how easy those are to fix. As I said, probably my recommendation for those of you who are looking for greater potential performance in your first cars. It's a great all-rounder and well deserves its place on this list. Despite my love for Skodas, I think this car might be one of the best propositions on this list. It's the Mazda 3 Sport, which hosts a 2-litre inline-4 engine, putting out 147 brake horsepower and doing 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. I've spoken about the much faster Mazda 3 MPS in previous videos, but of course both price and insurance put it out of this video. Not for the Sport though, which I got a quote for at £1,415. It comes with 17-inch alloys, climate control, a 6-speed manual gearbox, and some very subtle aesthetic differences to the standard Mazda 3, as well as disc brakes front and rear for greater stopping power. The interior trim is a little bit more comfortable too. I wouldn't say it's sporty, but it's not a bad place to be. In fact, after its release, many automotive journalists said it feels like a much more expensive car when you're inside it. What's also quite special about this car is you can get it as either a hatchback or a saloon, so for those of you that don't want a hatchback as a first car, here's your chance. Practicality is a key benefit of this car too. 346 litres of luggage capacity, almost 100 more than the VRS, 35 miles per gallon, which isn't awful, and 5 seats, and rear doors, which means that the socialites among you can actually comfortably fit an extra friend in, and no one has to climb over any seats. Take it from me, 4 or 5 doors on your first car is an absolute blessing. Despite having sport in the name, these start at around £1,000 for a well-used example, and for £2,000 you'll get one with around 70,000 miles on the clock. You could even get the next generation model for this kind of money, which is just a little bit better equipped. In terms of reliability, they seem to be okay, although not massively well documented, but the three main issues I could find are the weak battery, bad grounding, and poor engine mounts, all three of which are easy enough to fix but can cost you a bit of cash. Overall, a very decent proposition for a young driver, big and decently powerful engine, lots of space, and probably an even better all-rounder than the VRS mentioned before. Just missing out on the top spot, we have the Ford Fiesta ZETECS, a slightly more popular first car than some on this list, but no less worthy of its position. It has a 1.6 litre inline-4 pushing 98 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in 9.9 seconds, making it the slowest car on this list in that sense. That said, it does have quite reasonable insurance relative to the other first cars, as I got a quote at £1,345. Often new drivers want an ST, quickly realise they can't get insured on one, and have to look elsewhere, but they needn't look that far, as the ZETECS is similar in terms of looks, with 16-inch alloys rather than the ST's 17-inch ones being a key difference. But in terms of ownership, the ZETECS is cheaper to insure, tax, and drive, given it's a 1.6 litre engine rather than the 2 litre in the ST. Having driven both, I can confirm that the ZETECS does feel a lot slower than the ST, but the handling really isn't too dissimilar. You can pick up one of these for under £1,000, while £2,000 will get you one with 80 to 100,000 miles on the clock. There's also a diesel version of the ZETECS, but from what I've seen online, the petrol is a lot less problematic in terms of reliability. More generally, there are issues with the roll bar ball joint links causing a knock, as well as the rear hatch having issues, and sketchy connection for some of the electrics. Ultimately, this does feel like a substitute for the ST in many ways, so you might always be wanting a little more, but that said, a few people have sent these into Subscriber Showdown as their first cars, so they're clearly a decent enough offering. You may have recognised a common theme by now. Though the insurance prices are decreasing, the 0 to 60 times are generally increasing. But the car taking the top spot in this video bucks that trend. The Toyota Yaris T-Sport gave me an insurance quote of £1,266, which is just £30 more than the Honda Jazz I included in a previous first cars video. It hosts a 1.5 litre inline-4 engine with variable valve timing, putting out 103 brake horsepower and managing 0 to 60 in 8.7 seconds. I actually included this car in my previous video on first cars for young driving enthusiasts, but really wanted to drive home the point of how great a proposition this car is as your first. I can pretty much tell you what I said in the last video, which is that compared with the standard Yaris, it has sportier front and rear bumpers, a mesh grille, black tinted headlamps, front fog lamps, side skirts and alloy wheels. On the interior it has sports orientated front seats, a leather wrapped steering wheel, a leather and chrome gear shifter and metallic door sill scuff plates. What I didn't mention last time were some of the additional performance features this car gets though, including the sports suspension, body stiffening for rigidity, a close ratio gearbox, and disc brakes all around. In fact, the car was supposed to link to Toyota's sporting heritage and F1 involvement, at least according to their marketing. It's also economical to run with a quoted 41 miles per gallon figure, practical enough with its 5 seats, and there's a decent aftermarket for it. Maybe you want it to look like the sportier TRD edition or whatever. There are plenty of possibilities. I also like that the T-Sport is slightly rarer as a first car too, so a good way to flex on your friends. You can pick up one of these for as little as £1,400, but they can be quite hard to come by relative to other cars on this list. I would expect to get one with around 80 to 100,000 miles on the clock for £2,000. The best thing about the T-Sport in my opinion is the fact that you get very decent performance and even better engine reliability. Owners forums are full of people saying the car is bomb proof and will go for well beyond 200,000 miles. Even the build quality appears pretty good, with the drop links being the main build issue I could find. Overall, a very good first car, and I know a few people have messaged me on Instagram to tell me that they've bought them as their first cars and they absolutely love them. I must say they are super cool little cars and well worth the top spot on this list thanks to their cheap insurance. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to leave a like as it really helps the video out. Also, don't forget the topic of the week, which manufacturer makes the best first cars? I really want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, do it now. Massive thank you to the patrons as always for their continued support. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.